I guess that's our cue. Let me start here, Coach. What's the what do you like about your team entering this season? I know you guys have been practicing for probably a month, and the way the sport is nowadays, you got eyes on these guys all year round. What do you like about this year's team?
Well, I like their attitude. We have primarily the same team back, and we've added, obviously, made some additions. But with COVID year last year, you have an opportunity to bring everybody back, and we were able to bring them all back, with the exception of Elias Veoifi, who graduated and went on to do his thing. But the attitude, I think last year we didn't achieve what we were looking for. The kids have a different attitude towards training, towards their all of their habits, towards school, all of it. So I think we've got a better attitude this year. I think, which will translate into something hopefully on the mat that that we can all be proud of.
Absolutely. Yeah. You guys, just kind of glancing at the schedule, a lot of tournaments here right out of the gate. I know you guys got your intra-squad duel coming up later this week, and then Kaufman, Brand, Grandview, Lindenwood, all to round out the month. What are you kind of hoping to learn about your team over the course of those specific competitions, and even, the intra-squad coming up later this week?
Sure. Yeah. Intra-squad tomorrow night, it's kind of a starting point, kind of gives a pecking order. But it also forces them to wrestle under the lights in front of other people, so that we'll see who holds up to that kind of pressure. But again, just a starting point. The Open's a different situation. We get a chance to see our guys against pretty much anybody else. They've been beating on each other for a month, so they're tired of, going against each other. They're ready to compete. Gives us an opportunity to evaluate, in a live competition against, maybe some national level competition of our own. But the young guys, after doing this for so many years, the young guys, a lot of times they've got to take a whooping or two before they really start listening. So, and I'm sure in a couple of those tournaments, there's going to be some dogs running around there. So they're, they'll collect a loss or two, and then, we can make some great strides from that point forward.
Yeah, definitely. I know you, the Russell-Offs intra-squad matches, indicator matches, however you want to kind of phrase that gives you one idea, but then you kind of alluded to it. These live competitions, these open tournaments give you a whole different new idea. What do you maybe, is there any one wrestler or a handful of wrestlers that you're excited to see once you guys are able to hit a handful of these open tournaments later this month? Or?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Of course, we've got a couple of returning All-Americans, Josh Isaac, I think is number 4 at heavyweight, and Hayden Wimpin, who's 7 at 74. We know what to expect out of them, but we also hope to see, another step forward, maybe a little bit more dominance. But we have a guy, Otis Peeler, who former JUCO national champ, was redshirted for us last year through COVID. So, we're excited to see him get out there and actually get at it. We think he's a guy that, while he's ranked 11th starting the year, we think he's a top 3 guy, and honestly a national champ contender. So, we're excited about him. There's some others that were out last year. Desmond Prospero, junior college guy that transferred to us last year. I'm eager to see what he can do at 33. He's able to go, and we got some young guys. We got a little 25-pounder from Michigan, Zach Olette, that we're interested to see what he can do out there in the competition. But we also have a returner there, a national qualifier, that we're excited. I think what happened was we had a lot of guys that made it to the show last year, but it was their first time there, and a little bit of deer in headlights. So I think there's nothing to surprise them this year. So we're ready to take some steps forward along those lines. And, Donovan McElligott is a 97-pounder. Interested to see how he's going to do for us. Transfer in last year from Division I. We're excited about a bunch of these guys just to see how they can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. How do you strike the balance of, because with, the Russell-Offs and maybe, setting the lineup early with, this live competition where obviously you'll learn a lot more about your guys, but, what are you kind of hoping to learn, or what are you maybe hoping to, is there a specific time during the year that you kind of like to have the lineup figured out, or are you one of those that, doesn't mind if it stays fluid throughout the year?
Well, I think most coaches would like to know what they've got from the beginning. But at the same time, we keep it fairly fluid. Our beginning point is, again, it's kind of a pecking order, the ladder, so to speak. And we treat all of these open tournaments as a wrestle off, if you will. Anytime you go out there and you compete against your own teammate, then it's a wrestle off. If you're out there and the number 2 guy places higher than the number 1 guy, and they consistently start doing that, then that may make a change in who the number 1 guy is. So it's kind of an ebb and flow throughout the year. But after doing this is 30 years, it kind of corrects itself by the time you get down to it. There'll be a handful, 2 or 3 weight classes where you push and you move a couple guys in and out. But by the time we get to that end of January range, we've usually got it pretty well locked in.
Absolutely. Yeah. You kind of alluded to it, 30 years at the helm doing this.
Yeah.
What have you learned? What about your coaching philosophy or approach has changed? What have you maybe picked up on, or what's it been like coaching 30 years? That's a really long time in any profession, but especially in the sport of wrestling, where it seems like so many things have changed between now and then, right?
Well, thanks for letting everybody know I'm an old dog, but it really, there has been a lot of change over the 30 years, change technically and how kids are performing what they're doing. The mentality of the sport is different. It's still a grind, don't get me wrong, but just how they approach it, what they do with it. I've personally had to spend, as any head coach does, you become a psychologist. You work with your kids. That's the hard part. You don't grow up with them. You don't see them in town all year, while they're growing up in Pee Wee League and et cetera. You pull them in when they're 18 years old, and you're trying to mold them into whatever you want them to be. But not impossible, but you have to learn people. And that's the biggest aspect of this, and staying so long. I joke with people, I'm pretty old school when it gets right down to it. I mean, that's how I was brought up, but I'm kind of doing those splits about as far as I can go. I got a foot over in old school, I got a foot over here in new school, and we're making it work. It's the kids of today, like I said, are a lot more technical. They're cerebral, but some of that old school toughness may not be as prevalent as it used to be. Everybody's pretty slick. They like to be slick. Sometimes you just got to get out there and grind it out, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think honestly, Coach, that was everything we needed from you, unless there was something else you wanted to add or something else we may have missed.
No, just talking about the NAI in general over, talk about 30 years of that, been through a lot within the NAI, and we're really, really pretty proud of where the NAI as a division has come. When I first started in 91, there was roughly 70 teams in the division. And then, within a matter of 3 or 4 years, we're down to 30 because a lot of them jumped to Division II, lost 3 or 4 conferences all in 1 year. And then we shrunk quite a ways down to like 20 or 21. Now we're back up over 70 again. And the competition level is tremendous. Just look at our conference, with Grandview, Baker, Graceland, us. I mean, we've been up in the top end for a long time. And yet all these new schools are, and I know, Life is setting out there, knocking on the door and actually knocked them off last year. But, it's great to see. And I think, I think we should be very proud, in the NAI about what we've accomplished over these years. It's a testament to our coaching group, our leadership within the NAI, and certainly towards wrestling.
Absolutely. Looking forward to following your team this year, and really all the schools at the NAI level. There's some really entertaining wrestling at that level. So we appreciate your time today, Coach. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. If you get a chance, you ought to come down to our open, or not our open, our invitational. The end of January there on the 22nd, 23rd. That's 50 teams. It's the best of the best in the United States in small college.